Welcome to Align to Your Design. I'm your host, Beth Davis. Isn't it time to wrap your business around your purpose and bring your greatest work to the world? Each week, join me as we explore various biometric tools such as human design and hand analysis and how to use them to fulfill your destiny and align to your design. We will reveal how to do the work you are designed to do rather than what you think you should do. Hey everyone, Beth Davis here. How are you? This is the Align to Your Design podcast, and I hope you're enjoying the new episodes coming out. I had to take a break for a while there due to some health concerns, and I'm happy to report I am doing much, much, much better. And it is so good to be back with you and to be sharing these wonderful people with you who are doing interesting things, living their design all over this beautiful planet. So I'm going to tell you about our guest now and then bring her on. Just going to bring up the bio to read it to you correctly. All right. So I am interviewing today an incredible woman named Roxana Fazio, and she has a small travel agency in Argentina, and she works for the deaf community as well. She's called to include human design in education, to celebrate the uniqueness of each child. She has found, as I have, that human design is a great tool for teachers, not only to understand themselves, but understand the kids better and give them what they need and treat them accordingly. No massification or homogenization. And drawing from over 38 years of experience as a dedicated English as a foreign language educator, bilingual translator, skilled interpreter, travel specialist, and enthusiastic entrepreneur, Roxana brings a unique perspective to the intersection of human design and your life's journey. Roxana has empowered students, bridged linguistic gaps, and crafted personalized journeys for deaf travelers. She has a dedication to defend gender equality and inclusivity, and she demonstrates a commitment to social responsibility. Roxana is a 1-3 projector, and we're going to be looking at her chart in a little bit here. And she's driven to investigate and gather information with her natural curiosity and a desire to dive into various subjects in depth to understand life. Roxana is an insatiable learner, and she sees the world as a playground for exploration, growth, and experiencing the full range of human experiences. As a Latin American, she adds a distinctive layer to conversations, providing people with insights that transcend conventional boundaries. Yes, that is true. And that is why I wanted to invite her here. Now, she grew up in Argentina, and they currently have a collapsing economy. And we're going to talk about what that's like for her and for the country. And we're really going to deep dive into this because you don't always get to hear stories of people going through these big social shifts, and Roxana's living it, and she's managing to make her life work because she's living her design. And that's really the nature of human design, is that this idea that pretty much whatever life throws you, if you're internally guided by your own guidance system, you're going to be able to navigate what's happening in the world. So with that, let's bring on the amazing Roxana Fazio to align to your design. Here she comes onto the show. Hey, Roxana, hi.
Hi, Beth. What a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, you're such a remarkable woman. So I admire you so much. Will you tell us what it's been like growing up in Argentina? What was that experience? What's it like compared to, say, someplace else that you may have lived or traveled?
Well, quite right, because Argentina is a very particular place. It is not easy due to a number of crises that we have from time to time. We had military governments, in certain periods. So, there has been a long period in which people asked for the state to take care of them. They voted that, and they expected the government to provide certain things. So most of the things. And that led to a culture that didn't put any emphasis on work, no merit, everything free. So This country is totally different when I was, let's say, born and the first years of my life. So it has been deteriorating throughout time, unfortunately, because of the policies that we had. I mean, because the environment is so critical and because we fall into this economic crisis, then another government took over, and then people didn't have the patience to put things in order, and we went back the cycle, and they voted the same thing. So now we are living in 30% inflation per month. We have the education has deteriorated a lot. I mean, public education, we had public education, public health, also in a very, very precarious state. So things have changed for the worse. And to come back to the times when we were all middle class will take years. I mean, and also a change of mindset. I think that this is the first time in many, many years that people are realizing that this is not the way.
What would you say a better mindset would be from your point of view?
Think that we are the, let's say, the owners of our destiny, that we have to create our future and not let the future depend on somebody else. If we, I mean, it's very difficult to be an entrepreneur here because all the laws are against the entrepreneur. What they want is the state to regulate every single aspect of our life. So imagine that we are 47 million people and we are 6 million taxpayers. So the rest are 50% of the population work for the government. There are some, let's say, probably 4 million people that are informal workers. And so every time the government runs out of money, they put another tax, a limited number of people. Now, the state doesn't provide any service. So it's very difficult to support that burden. And the only solution is devaluate or print money.
Mm-hmm.
What have they done during all this period? Print and print and print and print. So our money is absolutely worthless. Imagine that in 4 years we had like 1,000% inflation.
Mm.
I mean, for example, 4 years ago, $1 was 60 pesos. Now it is 800 and I think 34. It changes every day. So the quality of life has really changed enormously. And apart from that, I mean, the pandemic didn't help at all. We were inside, we were not allowed to work, and kids didn't go to school. So what they created throughout this time was a population with no education, totally dependent on the government, and people had subsidies for 20 years. Not that is something reduced. So you say, if you don't vote me, you don't have the subsidy. If you don't have proper education, you cannot get a job. So it's kind of, they fell in love with what they say here, the Stockholm syndrome, which, I mean, people, I said, okay, this is what we want. Well, at least they give us the subsidy, but that is not living.
Mm-hmm.
This is surviving. You have the same people, same government years after year, and you don't have running water, or you don't have basics. So this is not the process of 1 year, I mean, or 4 or 10. These are decades in which the country has fallen into this. Well, we had several crises. I said this is the worst, but several crises.
So I
And
have two questions. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I wanted to
no,
ask you.
no, please,
So
please.
can you just briefly paint a picture of a scenario when you were young where things were going well? Just like a
Well,
day in the life, like how it went. And then the second question is, how are people in general making ends meet now? Like, just tell us some nitty gritty to make this really tangible for people.
okay. I mean, when I was a kid and until I was an adolescent or probably in my early 20s, I mean, we were all middle class. And there was the education, we had free education and very good quality of education. So we could go anywhere in the world. And even I lived in the States with a program of teachers. And I mean, they say, well, oh, where did you learn English? Well, I just learned it here because it was my first time abroad. So really, we had really very good education. What happened during the times? We have a period that we had a kind of, what would they say? People don't want to say it, but it would be like civil war, but they call it genocide. And there were people that now we would call terrorists that wanted to overthrow the government. And they really, the situation was really very violent. And at that time, I mean, the population supported the military and they said, take over. Now, they took over, it was a disaster. We had the Malvinas War in the middle. But apart from that, during that time, you couldn't open your mouth, of course. I mean, there were restrictions on the freedom of speech. There were many people who were missing during that period.
Mm-hmm.
And this was really, I mean, difficult. But I mean, people could live well. I mean, and you have security. I mean, you could, even if we were under a military government, there were no problems in the streets. The people at the beginning supported the government because we were fed up with, I mean, others planting bombs in any place, and they wanted to have, let's say, liberate Latin America from capitalism and all these people that were stepping on the workers and all these ideas. Now, I mean, the military made many mistakes. And after the Malvinas War, they had to leave government. And then we started a period of other, let's say what we call democracy, these 40 years of democracy. Yes, but democracy didn't leave people with I mean, didn't improve the quality of life of people because politicians were not really serving the people, but serving themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from that, well, these people who had been so violent realized that that was not the way. So instead of fighting with weapons, they went to universities and media, and so they started creating another story. It was not the story that I lived. It is a story created that is false. I mean, totally fake. Even they rewrote the story completely. So the terrorists were idealists who tried to free the people. The state is present. The state will solve your problems. You don't need to work. We can support you. The business people are oligarchs and they try to destroy you. I mean, they don't care about your rights. If you don't vote us, you lose all your rights, everything that we have achieved throughout time. And if you listen to the same story again and again and again, and they are in control of all the media, then all the lies becomes true because there is no one. I mean, they had practically control of, I mean, 70% or more of the media.
Is there a new leader now?
Yeah,
They got
this is
elected. Yeah. So what do you think about that guy? I'm blanking on his name at the moment, which is terrible. But
Javier,
what is
Javier
it?
Milei.
Yeah,
Javier Milei.
Yeah, Mile with the and he's at the chainsaw and the crazy hair and so
Exactly.
what do you think what do you think about that situation?
Well, the thing is this. I mean, we with the previous government. I mean, they were. He was not my first choice, of course, but he came with the idea of change. Now, I don't know if exactly he's like that or he's like he was acting. But I mean, this question of the chainsaw. But I think he may get rather crazy at times. But I tell you what happened. I mean, during these 4 years, I mean, it was impossible practically to live because they imposed restriction. You wanted to import, restriction. You wanted to export, restriction. You wanted to charge anything, restriction. So taxes, yes, more taxes. So the situation was really unbearable. And the people were divided into, let's continue with this because we know this guy, versus, I mean, this one that was absolutely an outsider. So he comes with he says the ideas of freedom. Yes, I mean, so that's what he defends. And in fact, in only 1 month, he sent a decree with, I don't know, like 600 different proposals or motions to change our system. And he also wants to pass a law which they are debating in Congress. Now, in the previous years, because the other government had a majority, it was like a notary's office, you know. I mean, Congress didn't even meet. It was so this guy made them work in summer. Now we have the summer vacations. So they are there because in general, the government takes over on the 10th of December. So then, of course, I mean, oh, you've been elected congressman. Well, now I have to take my vacation. They didn't start working until March. Now this guy said, oh, no, 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 come here. I mean, you have to work. And he passed these decrees. So we may agree with 80% of what he says because it is like make our life simple.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I want to open or to have my company. I don't have to fill in 70 forms to do that. But imagine that if you had 50% of the working force in the state, then you have to give them a job. So the corruption has reached, I mean, outrageous
Mm-hmm.
levels. So sometimes, for example, the Library of Congress, the
Right.
Library of Congress has more employees than the library in London, to have an idea. So no comparison. But if one day they have all to go to work, there is no place for them, physical place to work. So many people got salaries without working. Many people prefer to be in an informal situation and get the subsidy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So they have been buying people's votes for years. Now, because I mean, we were going into such chaos that people decided, okay, we want to change. And I think the stars are helping us because the change is coming, whether these people like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that the Workers' Association is going to have a strike on the 24th. I mean, this guy has been in power for 44 days by then. So you have a strike, a massive, I mean, national strike in 44 days. And that is because, I mean, he said no more privileges. Leaders, multi-millionaires, and the workers poor.
Right.
So they didn't defend anyone but themselves. So that has been the situation, I mean, for years. Every time they tried to, I mean, we had a different government trying to change the situation, they were overthrown one way or other. I mean, they have strike, 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 strike. Or, I mean, for example, they had trade union leaders blocking companies and not letting them work, and the government doing nothing. We had, during the pandemic, they freed criminals because they said that was contagious and they may die in prison. So, I mean, they were freed, but no one came back. The borders, because the military are I mean, a bad word. So our borders, I mean, were open and many drug lords came here. And so we have a serious problem with
Mm.
drugs. I mean, it's not just a passing country, but now we have serious problems in a couple of places that they are very difficult.
So can I
Well,
ask you, I want to ask you something sort of like out of left field here.
yes.
Oh, but related. You're a projector in human design, and the projector is energetically a guide, and projectors make up about 20% of the population. According to human design, the first projector didn't even appear on Earth until 1781. So you're a very new human hybrid. If the people elected you president, and being in charge of things is good for a projector, what do you see perhaps are the top 3 issues that the country needs to address first from your perspective, hypothetically, if you were in charge and guiding the energy?
Oh, I mean, education, economy, and security.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I mean, they are dealing with economy first because it affects really. I mean, imagine that we are a country that produces food for 400 million people, and half of the population is not only poor, 10% don't eat. So, I mean, the kids, I mean, 6 out of 10 kids don't have 2 meals a day. How can it be? I mean, this is unacceptable.
Yeah.
And that's worried me. I mean, we talked at a certain moment. It's incredible that we got to this point because, I mean, the country has resources. We are not in the middle of the Sahara, and you say, I mean, okay, where can I
Mm-hmm.
get? Well, we have, I mean, Argentina is very rich, not only, I mean, for food, mining, the sea, with fishing. So the resources are there. But for some reason, I think on purpose, I don't think it is just an accident. I mean, they haven't developed any industry. We haven't had new industries for ages. So the idea is not to educate people so that the more ignorant, the better. They make them dependent. So if you don't get the subsidy, you don't eat. And in that way, they could influence them the way they want. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't.
It just
I
seems
don't
so unsustainable, though. You know, when you keep weakening people, there's going to eventually be some kind of revolt. Yeah.
well, I think
Or maybe
so.
it's starting.
Yes, because you have, I mean, the country now is divided. It has always been two, let's say, two groups, but it has not been like what they have done in the past years because it was like Peronista, Radicales, it was like a football match, River, Boca. Well, but I mean, what they have done during these, I mean, let's say 20 years was to create hate. So they created hate in the family too. So the idea is to destroy the family, which was, I mean, basic in Argentina. I mean, the family was the building block of everything. I mean, of all the development. But what they, oh, okay, so I mean, one was from one party, the other was from the other party, and then they couldn't even talk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, to the extreme. I mean, this is if you read what they publish. I mean, it said, what's going on? I mean, we are all Argentinians. We are all in. I mean, we want the best, but some people don't want, and this is what is happening right now. I mean, the people who had privileges don't want to lose their privileges. On the other hand, I mean, some people are waking up and they are realizing that this system doesn't work because you may get more money. Imagine that for the election, the our minister of economy was also a candidate. So he used the printing machine like crazy, and he printed like 2 billion pesos to support his campaign. And then the money is absolutely worthless. It's like, I mean, every time you go to a supermarket, I mean, you have new prices. Now, what did they do? They forced everyone to get into a certain range of prices. You cannot charge more than this. Now, the economy doesn't work because if you don't get enough to cover your cost, why would you produce? So, and if the poor change their mind, imagine. So this government got the support of poor people, something that was even unbelievable for them. They cannot even accept them right now. And they even try on TV to say, I mean, interview people at the station or different places, I mean, to talk ill of the government. And most people say no. I mean, well, give them time. Let's see what
Mm-hmm.
happens. So
Oh, wow.
this is incredible, but at the same time, I mean, it is strange, and I mean, this government has no experience whatsoever.
Right.
Most of the people have never been in power, so they
Yeah.
have certain people. Of course, they need the politicians who have been part of the story, of course, because they I mean, this party didn't exist like I say 5 years ago. So this guy was elected a congressman 2 years ago, and now he became president. Imagine.
Wow.
So he doesn't know exactly how this works. What he knows is that it doesn't work. So that's why the chainsaw and all that. I mean, I think it was kind of exaggeration, because you cannot do it like that. I mean, the cost of these measures will be very big. I mean, and right now the inflation would be an issue for the next months, and I don't know if it will depend on the people. Because if the people don't support and don't give them time, we go back to where we were and worse. And that happened in another government before this, the last one, that we were on the right track. Didn't start well. They were on the right track, and people said, "Oh no, because we're unemployed. We look at the number of shops that closed on this and that." And well, they chose the previous one, and they knew they were corrupt. It's not that they didn't know. I mean, I said, how can you choose someone who is corrupt? I mean, oh, they steal, but they do things. I mean, what's that? I mean, that's not an explanation. And what is the thing that they do if you are still poor? I mean, you have to improve your condition. I mean, why do you still depend on subsidies if you are better? If this government gives you everything? Well, but what they did was to increase subsidies and give money and money and money, but they didn't build a single road. They didn't open another hospital. They don't pay the teachers or the doctors correctly. They don't have, input to work. You had an operation and maybe, they have to import I don't know, stents or whatever. I mean, some issues that were imported, and we don't have dollars to import. But so when we say the situation is really very critical, is because we are broke. But absolutely.
Right. So let me ask you something, and then I want to look at your chart here. There was something I read yesterday, and I'd love your impression on this because it felt true to me. The writer, his name is David Foy, Foy, brilliant man. And he was talking, and he knows human design, which is why I'm bringing it up. And he was talking about how it feels as if almost all of the civilizations worldwide are headed towards a collapse because, and you're expressing this really well, because there isn't a continuity even in tasks. One, with social media, many people are addicted to a dopamine high. Add to that this situation where countries around the world have not been keeping up their infrastructure, have not been keeping services in place. And so there is this lack of beginning, middle, and end because maintenance, like roads, schools, is tedious. It's time consuming. It requires lots of meetings and budgeting and isn't sexy. And it seems that the world has fallen into this rushing to fix things when in fact nothing's being fixed. It's just it's like mayhem. It's just people doing whatever they want to do and in a way infantilizing the population almost to destroy the population. But the irony in this is these people benefiting aren't really setting themselves up for success. This was what always blows my mind. If you actually include people, they succeed. And one of the most stable, successful countries is Sweden because their attitude is so different. Everything's a team effort. Every opinion counts. Let's move slowly. You won't get in trouble for mistakes. And then you have most of the other countries, and I would include the United States, where it feels there's just this scattershot approach. And no one knows how to fix anything anymore because everyone's dealing in their little area of specialization, but people don't see the big picture. So I wondered, what do you think about that?
No, he's absolutely right. I mean, even imagine the same idea when I was in college. I mean, we had a free university in Argentina. So the idea is that, of course, what does it mean? Free university means that the state will pay the teachers, but you have to study somewhere. So the building may collapse, and people didn't want to pay to keep up with the normal expenses of a building, and maybe, I mean, they were high class because, well, I went to a very prestigious institution, and I mean, they spend that, I mean, like on a packet of cigarettes or things of the sort, and they didn't want to pay because with this label of education is free. So with the idea that education is free, then they said that, okay, I don't pay anything. Or health is free, and we had that too. I mean, you can come. I mean, one thing is when there is an accident, something that you need something urgently. But we have even people from neighboring countries coming to Argentina and have their operation here. I mean, and we pay for the Bolivians, Paraguayans. I mean, it's not that we are saying no, but let's send the bill to their country. I mean, no problem. We have very good professionals, but I mean, it's not free. I mean, we have to pay the hospital, not only the doctor. So I say we have to pay everything that they use in the operation, and I mean, they have to clean. They have all the structure to do that. So I mean, they put in people's head the idea that everything is free and that the state is present everywhere. Now everything collapses. There comes a moment that if you don't invest on these things, and the new government wants, for example, that roads are private. I mean, are supported by private investments. No? And this is when you say private. I mean, here is the devil. Why? I mean, the state has to know because there's a sort of a theory that some other country would take advantage of us and that they would keep all their resources. And yeah, but then, I mean, what do you prefer? Have nothing. So there comes a moment, I mean, even in certain areas that, I mean, they haven't put any piping in 20, 30 years with the same government. I mean, it's not that they chose the opposition. No, they had the same people, and people kept voting them. So how can you manipulate public opinion so that they support you again and again and again? They see that these people get richer and richer, and all the same they say, okay, I vote them again. Vote, or there is something like a strange hand in the middle. We don't know, and it appears that they are voted. For example, we don't know exactly how many people we are because, I mean, they have changed certain figures in the census. Why? I say, why would you do that? Because, I mean, certain area, I mean, you get a certain amount of money per inhabitant. So it's better to have more people than you normally have so that you receive more money. That doesn't go to the people, of course. So they have been manipulating everything, the inflation indexes, the number of people. I mean, whatever you touch, there is something corrupt.
So in the name of time, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I want to look at your chart. Can we talk about you now? Can we talk about you? And thank you for that. In the name of time, I want to be sure that so I'm gonna bring up your chart. So 1-3 projector, right angle cross a contagion. Do you see it on the screen?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Okay, great. I think I can put both of us here for a conversation. Yeah, there we go. Okay. All right. So let's have a look at this because what's so very interesting is you're a leader. You're a leader. Yeah. And you could be in politics. I think it's so interesting we're having this conversation because in human design, we're looking at a body graph, 9 centers, 64 gates, 36 channels. What's colored in is essentially you. What's not colored in is your openness. You can think of the openness as the lock, and people who have definition where you don't, they bring the key. And where you have definition, you bring the key. And what's so interesting about this chart is that, your head area is totally open. So it's really important that you don't try to figure out your life because that'll really slow you down. So one thing that really helps me when my mind starts trying to figure out my life is I say to myself, it's a mystery. It's a mystery. Who knows? It's a mystery. And then trust your body because this is the design of someone who has to trust her emotions. But what's so interesting is this, back to leadership. You have gate 7, the gate of the alpha, and you have it in your north node line 6, right? So it's the person that is overseeing the administration of things. Then you have the full 1/8 channel and the full prodigal channel and gate 45. I mean, this is huge. You have 2 full leadership channels, the alpha gate and the queen gate, and you have the tribal channel, right? So when I look at this design, I can see how your energy moves, and that's what's so significant about it. You can see this area of definition, right? These 3 centers, the will, the solar plexus, and the root, they're not connected to the throat and the G center here, right? So you have 2 separate areas that aren't connected. So things come slow for you, and you need to remember that, right? You've got to ride that emotional wave of your emotional center and take your time with things. Um, but absolutely, I would invite you to lead. You need to lead things. This you are not a follower. You are here to lead and to guide other people. Now, there may be conditioning keeping you from doing that. I don't know. But if I wanted someone in charge of a major committee or a country or on a board, I would want someone like you because you see the truth and you know how to make the changes because you know how to corral people. This is an extraordinary chart of leadership. It's truly extraordinary. And one if we wanna look at, like, where your entry is in, if we look at the design Mars is our vocation, it's our work, our desk work day to day, even if you don't work at a desk. And it's also because it's Mars, it's an area of wounding. So you have gate 19, and you have it multiple times. But gate 19 is this tremendous sensitivity to the other, and you have the whole channel. You got the 1949 channel and the 4130. You have 2 channels connecting the root to the solar plexus. So 19 in line 4, this is about being sensitive to the needs of the community, and 49 is revolution. You have the whole channel, the 1949. So the basic idea is if people don't get their needs met, there will be a revolution. And most of the world is either in revolution now or they're heading towards it. So the challenge for you is that you always have access to resources. You really don't need to worry about money per se, even if money's tight sometimes. But you will be constricted with resources if you're not in a leadership role. You can't hide, not with this chart. I mean, you can, but you'll miss the whole thing. You'll miss
Yeah.
it. The thing for you is life is your medium. You're a very advanced being. Your variable, which are these arrows, are all right. You have 4 right arrows, right? So you're really meant to go with the flow from one place to another, help the other, right? And you're in a right caves blending, right? So with a
Yes.
caves blending environment, that would be moving from cave to cave, right? From Senate room to courtroom to car to meeting to, but going from room to room to room,
Mhm.
bringing this incredible energy you have. And again, you're just able to turn anything into art. Life is your canvas, life is your medium. You aren't here to work hard at things or worry about things. You can really just relax and allow yourself to be invited into leadership. But you've got to get involved or else you'll just miss the whole thing. You'll miss the whole thing, Roxana. I mean, you can hide. It will keep you safe and you might be safe this life, but then you won't fulfill your potential, which is totally your choice. And we all have this choice. But you are living in a time that you literally were born for, to lead a revolution. Not necessarily a bloody one either, but a revolution in how people look at life. So I would encourage you, maybe consider starting a small school and educating kids in human design and their parents, and just start building out communities of awareness. Because my sense is with, the government, really, when I lean into that energy, I don't know about you, but I don't think you can do anything there. It's just such a mess, right? It's so filled with corruption. That's what's happened in the world. Is as Ross said, Ra Hugh, who downloaded Human Design, he said in one of his lectures before he passed, he said, Oh, here I am, government official, I'm paraphrasing. Here I am, government official working for the tribe. And while I'm working for you, I'm rewarding myself. And that's
Mhm.
what's happened all over the world is there's this lack of loyalty and people rewarding themselves. And because you have the tribal channel, loyalty is a huge thing. I have this
Yeah.
channel as well. And so the main thing for you is you need to be in community, even living in community, because that's what keeps you healthy. So you may have to effort a little bit to get out of isolation, but this is the chart of a leader who's here to be part of this revolution. And I would just encourage you to think about what kind of revolution you want to lead because you're really quite unstoppable if you simply allow yourself to follow your emotional truth. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So have you
I
thought
know.
about this
Yeah,
leadership?
yeah. Yes. Well, I can't help being a leader. Even if I'm in a group, I end up being the leader. Although, probably because of my aura, not all the people are very happy with it, so, but I can't help it. I just end up, even if in certain, in companies and all that, I end up saying something and the other repeats what they say. They think that they said it themselves, and it was like something that I saw. And I commented, and it is like they said, "What do you do?" That guy. I didn't do anything. Just I try to. I'm better one to one. I feel more comfortable,
Yeah.
but I know that. In this time, it has to be. One to many, because if not, it would be very, very slow and it won't be able to accomplish much. So I always thought about education and the kids. That it has been something that I think that they are the ones that can make the change. Some people won't at this time in their life. It's very difficult with someone who has been thinking the same thing for 50 years. They won't make a change, and it's a waste of time. But and I also, because of a course that I attended later, they suggested to me and said, "Why don't you teach teachers?" Because if you start teaching teachers about human design, you can have a bigger impact because they can apply it. More than me going in, because my idea in this educational revolution is to have, little sanctuaries. That's what I wanted to create. It's like these small places where they could be themselves. I had really, since I oh before I graduated, I really felt very bad about everyone is the same. No, 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 no. We all have equal rights. Sometimes we have to fight for equal rights because not all are given their rights, but we are not the same. So we have to
Right.
celebrate uniqueness. I love when I work at school, I said, okay, let them be themselves, or why force them into studying things they are not good at? It's like, why do you want all with the same? We have the same curriculum for everything. So it is
I know
like,
it's nuts. Same here.
so
Yeah, it's an issue in the world. So, yeah, before we wrap up, I just want to say to the listeners out there, if you are a parent with a child and you want to know your design and your child's design, reach out to Roxana. I will put the contact info for you in the notes. And also, if you happen to be a Spanish speaker and you want support, reach out to Roxana about your human design. And if you're in need of a leader, for a retreat center or school, reach out to Roxana because, as you can imagine, if you're listening or watching this podcast, for the individuals around this world in collapsing economies, it really is such a blessing when we reach out to help one another and support one another without enabling one another, right? Reaching out to one another for each other's skills and strengths. And Roxana, you are a brilliant woman. And I do want to emphasize to you and to the listeners that your leadership is so flexible in that you can move between dictatorial and authoritarian and democratic styles. You are profoundly gifted at leading communities in creative ways and helping people, in this case, children, be more creative. And you also are an incredible storyteller and with an understanding of history, which comes across because you've got. I'll just show you again in your chart, and for anyone watching this, in case you also have this, you've got this 1/8 channel and the 3313 channel. And the 1/8 channel is about creative contribution, being a leader who can rally the community towards creative efforts. It might be setting up a school or a community mural or community park or a film festival. I mean, I could go on and on. They could play out many different ways. And then the 1333 is the prodigal, where people tell you their secrets. And you are this historian, historian of the past. And your life is about trying new things to integrate and also to teach people from mistakes. I mean, that's the biggest part of that channel is the mistakes you've made, the mistakes you've seen other people make, even the way you talk about the government, the mistakes they've made, the things they did that worked. You have that kind of long view on things, which also supports you as a leader. So you have the stuff, as it were. And then gate 45 is the king or queen gate, which is naturally about the voice for the community. It's the only tribal voice in the whole chart. It's the voice for the community. And you have gate 14, which is power skills. And those two gates in particular, in a sense, protect you financially. As long as you stay involved, there'll always be invitations for you. So I just wanted to highlight where I was seeing all that because I've only met one other person in all my years of human design that had that much leadership in their chart, and they weren't doing it either. And I think a big part of this is you have to drop any idea about how you're supposed to act or where you're supposed to live and just keep following and trusting your uniqueness. Right? Because you can see you've got this huge, like I do, you have a split where you've got this brilliance to communicate, but it has to be invited. And then meantime, you have this body with all this energy, right? And that energy needs to be released. So it's really good for you to dance, walk, exercise regularly. And when you're doing that, that's when you get a lot of clarity, is through the movement. Yeah, through the movement. So anything you would like to share before we sign off today?
I would like to share how I got encounter with human design. Yes, and it was like the first time was in 2006, and I couldn't make heads or tails of all that thing. I mean, I say, what's this graph? I mean, and the descriptions. And one day, it was during the pandemic, and I saw Beth. I mean, I listened to a podcast. I mean, and it was an interview. I said, "She's the one." I mean, because I mean, you open my mind in ways that said, "Oh yes, here it is." I mean, everything is. Oh, that's why this happened to me. This is why I am like this. Oh, I understand. So
Mm.
you opened my head. I mean, to it was like it was a new world with human design, and I owe it to you, yeah, because before it was just a graph and strange descriptions. So thank you so much.
You're so, so welcome. And I look forward to our continued connection. And thank you so
Yes.
much, Roxana. This was
Thank
fascinating. And thank you to everyone else who's joined us for Aligned to Your Design. I hope that you're taking some insights away and thinking about ways you can improve your own community and feeling gratitude for what you do have. Thank you again, Roxana. All right,
thank
everyone.
you.
Bye for now. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Aligned to Your Design. If you did, please grab my free report, Business by Design, at yourpurpose.com, and then join our Facebook group, Align to Your Design. See you next time.